Good morning. Welcome back to Conversations at the Corner. Today is February the 18th. Can't believe we're halfway through the second month of 2026.
Yeah.
But welcome to episode 57. Pastor Nathan, how are you today?
I'm doing all right.
Good, good.
Living life.
That's right. Living the dream. Hey, we last week we kind of shifted and we did kind of a tip of the hat to the Makeshift Project, those guys out there. And so we're going to continue with that theme again today.
Okay.
And so this kind of, again, takes the place of question of the week. So I want you to rank these musical groups,
Ooh.
5 of them, without knowing who comes next.
1, 2. Okay, 5 of
Yep.
them. All right, great.
All right. So you ready?
I'm good.
All right. Here's the first one. Newsboys.
Oh, goodness. I don't think I've listened to the Newsboys in 20 years.
Yeah. When I was coming up with this, that was the first group that popped into my mind. Why, I have no idea, but I went ahead and just wrote it down.
I can't, like, how many questions can I ask? Are these all Christian groups? Are these a mix?
They're mixed.
Okay, they're mixed. Yeah. I haven't listened to them in 20 years, and their lead singer just got credibly accused of some really bad stuff.
Yep. And he wasn't the lead singer like when we were in
Originally.
high school. Yeah, that's
no,
right. Yeah.
not originally, because they were like an Australian group, weren't they?
I don't know.
I think they
something
were.
Like that. They were
did
huge, though.
Yeah, they had
Oh, man.
Shine, make 'em one do.
That's right. Take Me to Your Leader. Classics.
I'm gonna go. I did enjoy them when
Okay.
I was in high school. I'm gonna go with 4
Okay.
Newsboys. Okay.
All right. Great. All right. So Newsboys was number 1. Here's the second one. Backstreet Boys.
Oh, that's a 5. Yeah, Backstreet Boys. Okay. This. All right, Backstreet Boys. I hope you don't do any really bad ones, but there's no way I can rank them above Newsboys. Backstreet Boys are awful.
Yeah?
No.
Okay.
No, thank you.
All right. You ready?
Oh, this is gonna get bad.
Spice Girls.
You're killing me, Small.
So we've gone from the Australian Christian group to the British all-girls group of the late 90s, Spice Girls. You have 1, 2, and 3 open.
Yeah, I guess I got to go 3. I'm
Okay.
hoping this doesn't get worse. Spice Girls.
Spice Girls is 3. All right. Here's the next one. Ready?
Yeah.
Dixie Chicks.
Man, are these all just awful? You're awful against awful against awful against.
I don't
awful.
know. You have to tell me.
I don't even know if I really know their music that well. So this is hard for me to rank them.
1 or 2. That's what you got open.
Yeah. I guess I'm just gonna say 2 in the hopes that the last one is somebody good that I know.
Yeah.
I don't have anything in particular against the Dixie Chicks.
So the Spice Girls was a worse pick.
They definitely
Okay.
they should have
Okay.
been 5. I don't have anything against the Dixie Chicks. I just don't think I really know their music.
Okay.
Maybe if I heard one of their popular songs, I would
Yeah.
recognize it, but not off the top of my head.
I really hate that you left number 1 open.
Really?
Yeah. Number 1 is the Beatles.
Yeah. Well, that's what I would have probably put. That's if you had given me that early.
Yeah.
That's probably
That
what
would
I
have
put
been,
at number
yeah.
1.
Because I knew you were a Beatles fan.
Yeah.
But I was really hoping that you would just, make the mistake of ranking them. So tell me, so what was your ranking?
Okay, so my ranking was 1 Beatles, that's fine. Dixie Chicks, whatever. Spice Girls at number 3, Newsboys at 4, and Backstreet Boys at 5. So if I had to do it over again,
Yeah, if you knew who they were.
yeah, Beatles would be 1.
Uh-huh.
I think actually 2 would be Newsboys.
Okay.
Because I did have a period of life where I really listened to them
Okay,
quite a bit.
yeah.
I think I saw them in concert a couple times at least.
Okay.
So they would probably be number 2. Then I guess Dixie Chicks as kind of a neutral for me would be number 3, and then Backstreet Boys and Spice Girls,
Okay.
respectively.
Okay. Oh, this is
Okay,
fun.
that was fun. That
yeah,
was
yeah.
fun.
At some point, we'll switch it, and I'll let you do this. I'll let
Yeah.
you do it to me. But
Yeah.
that sounds good. Well, thanks for playing. We are in week 3 of February here, and we're also in week 3 of our series on finances and money. So, Pastor Nathan, what are we going to talk about?
Okay, so what we're going to talk about today, I'm hoping this will work because I want to talk about something a little bit more abstract. And we've talked about our kids and we've talked about church budgeting. This one, well, what I want to talk about could apply to kids. It could apply to a church budget, and it could apply to a family budget as well. I want to talk about the difference between short-term and long-term mindsets when it comes to money.
Okay.
So the short term, So let's forget about. I want to set aside for the moment, especially when we're talking about churches or families.
Yeah.
Anything like baseline spending.
Okay.
You got a mortgage or you got your bills. Everybody knows you got to pay that stuff, and there's really not anything you can do about it.
Okay.
You have to keep the lights on. So I want to talk about short-term and long-term mindsets. Let me start out with a family question.
All right.
And how do you, and I can talk about how we do this too, how do you think about vacations and leisure spending from a family perspective? That to me is more of a short-term thing.
Okay.
Right? Because,
Yeah.
okay, how do you think about that? Or how have you guys historically thought about that?
So we haven't done great at this. Last year, we did take a couple of smaller, shorter trips, 2 or 3 or 4 days, something like that.
Okay.
But we hadn't done anything like that in the last several years.
Okay.
Probably like 3. In 2022, we did a family trip to Disney. Our family, my parents, my sister and her family. But then since 2022 until last summer, I don't think we did anything like that.
Okay.
And so, you kind of get in this rut and routine of just life, and you kind of get to where you don't really think about it, or at least me, I don't. And then it's like you go away and you're like, oh man, this really is important and we should do better at this.
Yeah, you want to get away at
Yeah.
least a little bit.
Yeah.
kind of.
So, we haven't done great. Last year we did take a couple of different trips and they were really good. So I think this year we have a big trip coming up after Easter, and so we have got that planned. And then I think when Brady goes to youth camp, I think Samantha and I are going to try to get out of town for a couple of days and just do something
That's
for
good.
us.
Yeah.
We did that last year and it was really good. We actually used the church pastor appreciation gift last year during that time.
That's right. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
So we haven't done great at that. We're trying to do better. And we actually, not long ago, I asked Samantha, I said, hey, if you had X amount of money and you could do one really nice trip in the year, or instead of do one really nice trip, you could break that money up and do like 2 or 3 not as significant trips, but just do them more often. What would you rather do? So we actually did have that conversation not long ago. I think she picked the 2 or 3 smaller
ones.
trips just
Okay.
to go more often. Yeah. How about you guys?
Yeah, so our dilemma with vacations has been that, especially since, really for all of our marriage, but especially since when we moved to Bolivia in 2017, and we've been in pastoral ministry. It's like when I get vacations, I have to go see family because we haven't lived right next to our family. Now in New York, we were relatively close to my family. It's about a 3.5 to 4 hour drive, depending on border traffic and stuff like that.
Yeah, because you cut through Canada, right?
Right, we would cut through Canada. So that made smaller trips to see my parents a little bit easier. And now we live about 3 to 3.5 hours from Charlotte. So that makes trips there a little bit easier. But there's still a sense of, like, okay, what are we going to do with spring break? Well, we should probably go see one of the family because we don't live near them. Or what are we going to do over the summer? Well, we got to get out to see my mom and dad up in Michigan at some point in the summer. And that's not a bad thing. I don't want to. I don't want what I'm saying right now to come off as complaining because it's not. It's more just because of that.
It's the trade-off.
Right, it's a trade-off. And so because of that, we haven't really done a lot of vacations. Now, when we were in New York, we did do one where we took the kids on a trip like through New England.
Oh, okay.
I guess I don't really remember what prompted that, but we went like to Connecticut and Rhode Island and,
You stopped by Gillette Stadium and pay your respects
we
to
did
the
not
house
do
that
that.
Brady built?
We did not do that. We went like we went to like Harvard. They have a museum, like a natural history museum,
Yeah.
with like dinosaur skeletons and stuff.
I've never been up to New England. I would love to go.
Oh, really? Yeah. So we took them there, and that was really fun. We have the other trips that we've done. Now there was a family cruise, so all the people pretty much from my stepdad's side of the family, the Mills family, they went on a big family cruise one summer, and so we went along and we did that. But really, a lot of it has been so family oriented. Now, one thing we want to change is because we do think it would be good for us as a family to kind of get out and do a few other things. So one thing we've got our eye on is Washington D.C. So this is like coming down from, as parents, we can go to all the free museums there and stuff like that. We can take them to the Smithsonian, and we can take them to the National Gallery of Art, and there's all sorts of other places that you can go. So we think we probably want to get them up to Washington D.C. at some point because we're within, I think, 4 hours.
You could take the train too.
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
didn't
we
wanna
can take
drive,
the train. We can take the train. So I think it's important, but I think it is good. I like that question that you had there about picking between a bigger one and a little or small ones.
Yeah.
Because I think obviously the trade-off is a bigger one. You might be able to go to someplace more exotic. Go to Disney World,
Yep,
or in the case of me and Olivia, like we would probably want to go to Greece and Italy or something like that. But the trade-off is it's nice to have points throughout the year
Yeah.
where I can get away for just 2 or 3 days and just kind of, empty my brain out or whatever. So I think it's good to think about it. It's not always easy to afford, right? It definitely is one thing. If you're in a tight budget, it'd be one of the first things you could cut
Yeah.
because what do
Is it a necessity? Yeah.
it's not. Lots of people grew up without
Yeah.
tons of vacations. So I just thought it would be interesting to touch on vacations. I'd love to hear from people in our congregation. What kind of vacations have you taken?
Yeah.
What do you like? How do you plan for it? I know we've had a little bit of a conversation between, like for me, I had a lot of fun. I visited Japan. I visited a friend in Japan for a little bit. But that vacation was very stressful because I don't know the language. I got to figure out all this bunch of stuff. Versus like a cruise where you get on the cruise and you just let your brain melt out of your skull. And that's what you do.
Come back dumber than you left.
Right. And both of those are good
Yeah.
because when I've been on a cruise, it's just been so nice. I don't have to think about anything. I go to eat when everybody goes to eat. I read a book. I have fun. But I also really love that exploring. So maybe that's a question for people in the congregation. Do you like exploring? Do you like
I think we did a
relaxing?
question of the day kind of like that.
Oh, we have?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Well,
think-
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I think we've done so many, it's hard for me to remember. But my brother-in-law said one time, and I hadn't thought about this, but this is so true. He talked about the difference between a vacation and a trip.
Okay, yeah.
You go to Disney World, you go to Japan, you go to DC. Those are trips. Those are experiences. They're fun. They're awesome. They're cool.
Right.
They're whatever.
Not necessarily relaxed.
They're not necessarily relaxing. A lot of times you come back from a trip more tired than you left.
Yeah.
So there's a balance and good of both, hey, we're going to go to Disney or we're going to go to DC or we're going to go to Italy, whatever. Or we're going to rent a cabin in Gatlinburg or go to the beach. Not Myrtle Beach, but like a secluded beach where there's not a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
And we're just going to rest and relax. And both of those things are awesome.
Right. And so in your budgeting and in planning, that's something that I think is good to get rest. Now, throughout the history of the world, vacations have this is kind of a newer thing, realistically.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the highest priority, but I would really say to families, if you can find ways to budget in rest and time together where it's not about school or work or all that type of stuff, if you can find it, that's a good thing. Let's kind of switch gears for a minute here. Let's think about short-term versus long-term mindsets.
Okay.
One of the things that when we were talking about our kids and allowances and things like that, kids don't generally have a long-term mindset. You might think about saving up for something. So one thing when I was a kid, when I was in elementary school, I wanted a Nintendo, like the original Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I think it cost $100 or something like that at the time. And my mom had said I could get it, but that I needed to save up my own money. So that was a long-term goal. I had to think about, putting away my allowance.
How long did that take?
I don't remember. She would probably be able to give me a better idea. My memory is foggy. I remember that we got there and I had $100 and I didn't know about sales tax. And so she covered I think it was like 4% or something like that.
Yeah.
So she covered the $4, I think, if I remember correctly. You can tell me, Mom, what you remember. But anyway, that was the most long-term I got. So for adults, what are some of the long-term things that we should be thinking about, or what would you want our congregation to be thinking about?
I think retirement.
Yeah.
There's some people that they're not really built for retirement. They're gonna work. They're gonna be active until they go to heaven,
Right.
and that's fine. But I think getting to that place in life that when you get older and you do physically slow down a little bit, and you can either retire or kick back and just do something part-time that is for
Right.
fun rather than need. But I think prepping for retirement, I wish I had started sooner. I didn't start as soon as I should have, so I'm a little behind.
Okay.
So I think doing that, and when you're young, you don't think about it. You'd rather
really
have the money
don't.
now.
Yeah.
My dad told me many times, you should start the pension plan. You should start the pension plan. And I didn't until much later.
Yeah.
So I wish I would have now. But I think retirement, for one thing. I think life insurance.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I think that's something I'm going to look into. Like, I don't have any life insurance right now. That's not good.
And
I need to.
life insurance is one of those things where you could get it, and you may never end up using it, but you may also end up using it.
Yeah, and I think doing a term life insurance,
Yeah.
for 20 or 30 years, depending on how old you are,
Right.
to where it kind of takes you to retirement age to protect your family.
Right.
And then, and I don't know, maybe when your kids grow up and move out as you get older, maybe you drop down the coverage from whatever,
Yeah.
$1 million to 500,000 or
whatever it might be.
But yeah, I think those kind of things are pretty important that people don't think about, or especially young people don't think about.
Yeah, I think retirement's one of those that is kind of interesting because it depends to some degree on what kind of work you're doing. So if the work you do is really physically taxing,
Yeah.
you're going to have to expect that at some point your body is not going to be able to do that anymore.
Right, yeah.
And so you're going to need to retire from doing that physical kind of
Yeah.
work. But I also think it's important. This isn't even necessarily a financial mindset, but part of it is once you do retire. So we're sitting next to Richard here, Richard Maddox.
Yeah.
Richard, you are 80. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Richard nods. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm
he's the goat.
confirming.
Yeah.
Confirm 80. But Richard is not retired in the sense that he doesn't do anything.
No, he's probably more active now than he ever has been. I don't know. He did own his own business at one point.
Yeah.
So, and it was busy.
Right. And so this idea that Richard runs sound for people, he does different jobs, he has something that he's invested in that he can do. That's a good thing. And so I think a lot of people need to think about, okay, I'm going to retire, and that's going to maybe reduce my financial income, or maybe I'll get Social Security, or however all that stuff will work.
Yeah.
But I also have to think about how I'm going to live.
Yeah.
So those are mindsets that I think people don't. And I've had to think about that. Like, I'm in pastoral ministry now, and I've got 20 years or so before I even have to think about retiring.
Yep.
This is a long time. But I still have started to think a little bit about, like, well, what would I do? Like, well, how would I spend my time? And pastoral ministry is not physically taxing, generally speaking.
Yep.
So I probably could, even if I wasn't in a paid pastoral role, I could probably find things to do within a church that could still benefit the church. But yeah, I think those are both really good things. Life insurance, so that falls under preparing for a tragedy.
Yeah.
One of the things that people maybe don't do very well, and this is something that I'm sure Dave Ramsey talks about, is savings.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have something, because sometimes stuff happens.
Yeah.
You lose a job, or you get injured.
Yeah.
And maybe your injury will cause you to have to step down from work.
Yeah.
And I've heard of people who they got cancer, and they eventually beat it, but the cancer put them in a position where they couldn't do their job for a couple of years or something like that. Well, what are you going to do? And that's hard when you're young, because you don't have the resources to save, really.
Yeah.
You don't have maybe a higher paying job or anything like that. But that's another thing to think about. What are some other kind of short-term things that people could think about? So we talked about vacations.
Yeah.
Connected to vacations, what about leisure? How should Christians be thinking about leisure in their budgets as they think about short-term finances? Or how have you thought about it?
Well, I don't do a lot of leisure things. I probably need to do better at that in my time. But we are called to be good stewards of the things God has entrusted to us. So
Right.
that's money, one, but it's also our time. And I think in a previous podcast, we did talk a little bit about leisure and kind of like what are the things that we should or should not be doing.
Right.
I think it was funny because we talked about like not going to the casinos. Like,
Right,
that's
right,
not
right,
an
right.
appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think leisure is important. I think taking care, on the seventh day, God rested. So
Yeah.
I think we need to rest. I think we need to practice that. We don't do good at that.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that we do that cost money and things that we do that don't cost money. So
Yeah.
I don't think that has to break the bank.
Yeah, so that's actually a great point that I was wondering if you would lead into that or not. I'm glad you did. Because one of the things about leisure, now I go to the movies, so I have my movie pass that costs me like $25 a month or
Yep.
whatever, So I have a leisure, a little bit of money that I spend on leisure. But there's a lot of things that we can do that are restful that don't really cost money.
Yeah.
You can go for a hike or you can, I know the Wallaces here at our church are big board game people. Now, it does cost money to buy a board game, but you can use
A
it
one-time
over-
investment.
Right. You
Yep.
can use it over and over again. So you could spend an afternoon playing some board games or things like that. Now, not everybody's a hiker or a board gamer,
Yeah.
and that's fine. But I think my point is here that one of the things we can do when we think about our budget is look for leisure activities that are either not very expensive or potentially free. That might be a good thing to do as we kind of try
Yeah.
to think about our budgets. So I didn't have a lot of, let's say, items listed on this particular discussion. Is there anything else that pops into your mind when it comes to long-term versus short-term thinking?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we all need and have are things like cars. So at some point, we're going to need a new car.
Yep.
So is that, I guess that could be a long-term or short-term goal to depending on how you look at it. I look at it like a short-term goal.
Yeah.
Even if you say, hey, within 2 years, I'm going to need a new car, so I'm going to start saving.
Yeah.
2 years in some ways seems like it should be a long-term goal, but when you really look at the course of life, it's a short-term goal.
Yeah.
So I think, things like cars or even saving for like tires. Like tires are expensive.
Okay.
$700-800 to replace your tires. Like there are some people that they can just go in and swipe their card or
And do that.
throw
Yeah.
out 7 Benjamins and pay for their tires or whatever. But
Right.
a lot of people, it's like, I don't have $700 laying around.
Right.
I need to save. So knowing, hey, I've got this coming up, I need to be putting some away.
Yeah.
Maybe some people are like, I'm renting, I want to buy a house, saving for the down payment,
Yeah.
or things like that. So I think those are really some usually more short-term goals.
Yeah, and so going off of cars, one of the things that we did when we were living in New York, we needed to get a new vehicle. And we had historically bought used vehicles.
Yeah.
And because that's just what we'd done. Usually the deals were pretty good. But this was, I think, 2003. And so this was, I don't think it's really changed that much, although I don't keep a close watch on the car market right now because I don't need one. But this was at that point where used cars were about as expensive as new cars.
In 2003?
Yeah, kind of in that range where the used prices were just skyrocketing.
Okay.
Not that they were the same as new, but they were really going up. All that hyperinflation after the pandemic and everything.
In 23.
Yeah, just 2023.
Okay.
Did I say 2003?
I think you did, and I was like,
Well,
you
my
weren't
apologies.
living in New York in 2003.
No, I wasn't.
2023. Got it.
2023.
Okay, sorry.
My bad. So in 2023, when those
Yes.
used car prices were really kind of skyrocketing,
yeah.
we needed a new car. And so we thought, well, we really did not want to buy a new one
Right.
at all. But when we looked at the price differences, it was like, well, we can pay a few thousand more, and then we know that this car should last us
Yeah.
15 years,
Yeah.
depending on how much we drive it and all of that type of stuff. Hopefully, we don't have to think about this particular vehicle for a very long time to come.
right.
And so that investment hurt us up front. And thankfully, we did have the money to buy it. We had the savings to buy it. So sometimes if you can, and you can't always, those are good investments to make.
Yeah.
We know that hurt up front, but I think 15 years from now or whatever, however long that car lasts, we'll be happy.
Yeah.
We didn't have to pay a lease. We didn't have to lease a car. We didn't have to do a payment on a car. We were able to just go forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's all I got. I really just wanted to think, and if you have anything more to add, you can. I really just wanted us to kind of ponder the idea of short-term versus long-term planning. You can't predict what's going to happen in life.
Nope.
You don't know if you're going to get sick or die or anything like that. You can't predict necessarily what will happen with your work.
Yep.
Sometimes you can lose a job, or, I know here in Roanoke, Salem, the Yokohama plant is closing. And so there's a lot of people who are having to think about, oh, this is not what I predicted.
Hundreds of people.
Right.
Yeah.
So they didn't predict that. So you can't predict life.
Yep.
And so I think one of the things that we can do in our finances is try to figure out that difference between short term, because you can't shortchange the short term.
Yeah.
But you also have to really think about the long term.
Yeah.
So.
I think I would just leave our listeners with two things. One, consider saving for now, savings account, and then saving for the future, retirement. Get on that if you haven't. If you're behind the eight ball, go ahead and start that. And the other thing is really, especially guys, really consider doing life insurance to protect your family. Ladies, I think you can do it too. I mean, anybody should, but guys, you're the head of your household. You are responsible for providing for your family.
Well, and as a
protecting
general rule,
Yep.
men are going to have the higher salaries.
Yeah.
So they're going to have that financial base. And not always. There are times when that's not the case, but that's the general rule.
Yep. And so I just think just being wise, and do I want you to have to shell out $100 or $200 or $300 a month? No, I really don't. But I would rather you protect your families in case of tragedy and set them up well for the future than for them to not have anything to fall back on. So it's something I'm wrestling with myself, something I've got to make a decision on. We've talked about, so I'm right there with you. I understand. Pastor Nathan, anything else?
You know what? I don't think so. I just want to encourage everybody to think about short-term versus long-term. I think what you've offered is great: savings, retirement, and just thinking about, again, the whole point of this, we're not financial planners.
No.
You and I are not.
Nope.
We're not Dave Ramsey. I cannot tell you which, Roth IRA or which investment portfolio you need to put your money into or any of that stuff. That's not me. But it all kind of comes back to the idea that we are stewards and disciples. And so as disciples and stewards of what God has given us, we want to be wise with it. And so that's kind of my point today.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that discussion. Why don't you pray for our listeners before we dismiss?
Absolutely. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of life, and we thank you for all that you have provided for us as families, maybe as churches. My call to you, my request of you today is that you would help us all, especially those at Emmanuel Wesleyan Church where Pastor Matt and I serve as pastors, that you would help us as a congregation to be wise with our money, to be discerning. When is something a good short-term investment? When is something a good long-term investment? How can we plan with those things in mind, especially when we don't know the future? God, help us to be wise. Help us to consider you. Help us to consider your values and your priorities as we make these decisions with our money. We offer this to you because we know that we are just humans and we're fallible. We make mistakes. We are prone to sin. And so money can be a place where we sin and we make mistakes. But God, we ask for your guidance and give us the courage to follow your guidance. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you for joining us. Same time, same channel next week. We'll complete this series next Wednesday. We'll see you then. Keep rolling, Emmanuel.